as an artist, I get to kind of almost hand out these awards or permissions of feeling confident about yourself. When I give a painting to a child that I've painted and they see themselves through my eyes, I see the change over their faces. And I think it's something that lasts through them their whole life. It's like this little prize they've won. I am Tina Garrett, and I'm an oil painter. I've always known it was my calling. Ever since I was a little child, I've been making some sort of art, usually drawings. Started doing a little tiny bit of like gouache and watercolor and stuff like that in high school with a really awesome high school art teacher. But I didn't start oil painting until 2012. I had been a graphic designer and illustrator for many years for a publishing house, and I had illustrated all kinds of preschool through 12th grade school curriculum for a long time. But then kids put away scissors and glue and started using iPods and iPads, and digital art became like it kind of took over the publishing industry that I worked in, and had to decide to reinvent myself. And it was either become an artist, which is something I'd always dreamed of doing, or go to dental school, become a dental hygienist. So I decided to stay an artist. Got an incredible scholarship from the Scottsdale Art School just a couple miles from here back in 2012 to learn from Romel de la Torre, who is my master teacher. And I didn't know this whole world even existed. So I learned in that moment who he was, what the fine art world was, the gallery world in realism, and who Richard Schmid was, and continued learning in that same vein from all of those great teachers that were either highly influenced by Schmid or students of his, and I think found my people. I've always wanted to paint the women in my life. My very first show in art was all women aged 4 to 82 that I knew through various aspects of my life, like the Girl Scout cookie girls or my neighbor who is 80. And I just love telling stories about women and kind of the introspective inner world of women and their transitions in life and in their emotional connections with themselves and each other and how they maneuver through life's challenges. And I just have always felt drawn to that. I lose time when I'm creating. I completely lose time and space, and I have this out-of-body, or I kind of call it underwater experience, where I can't really hear what's going on around me. I'm really immersed in what I'm doing. I know the outside world exists, but I am so happy sometimes I'll actually startle myself out of that by laughing out loud. So to me, I feel like it's a way to connect with my deepest part of who I am. Some people might call that God, some people might call that the universe or humanity, whatever you want to call that, but I really feel like when someone is genuinely creating, that's really like the closest connection you ever really are to yourself. Probably the thing that gets me the most excited is when I get to paint someone who's about 10 or 15 years old, you know, they're in that awkward stage, like kind of like a puppies who have paws that are too big for their body, you know, and they feel a lot of pressure from outside sources like the media or even friends to look a certain way. And when they see that an artist wants to paint them, and then they see the painting of themselves, you can see something come over their posture, and their sense of self and their sense of self-worth changes. And I've seen it happen in children, I've seen it happen in grown women. One of the very first portraits I ever painted, I painted this gorgeous woman to me, which looked like a Greek goddess. I thought she was so beautiful. And she was like, I don't know why you want to paint me. I'm like, trust me, artists know why they want to paint you. But when I gave her the painting, she handed it to her husband and said, see, I am beautiful. And I thought, how come you have to say that to your spouse? Like, what's going on in our culture where they don't know their own worth or their own beauty or their own value, and even the closest people to them aren't reinforcing it for them and with them. So as an artist, I get to kind of almost hand out these awards or permissions of feeling confident about yourself. When I give a painting to a child that I've painted and they see themselves through my eyes, it changes over. I see the change over their faces. And I think it's something that lasts through them their whole life. It's like this little prize they've won. I am beautiful enough that a great artist wanted to paint me. This piece actually does sort of tap into exactly what I was talking about, where myself, and most of the paintings are in some sort of weird way a portrait of myself, to turning towards yourself, to know what you want for yourself, and to sort of be your own best counselor, essentially. And there's bits of poetry hidden in this painting, a couple of animals, a few other symbols and numbers. And I will tell you one little bit right here. It says, "Let your strength be your guide." It's written in the sand. And so I love that I can hide little Easter eggs in my paintings, and 2, 3, 5 years into owning a painting, people will say, "Oh my gosh, I found a swan," or something. And I'm like, I knew you'd find it eventually. And then sometimes they even find things that I didn't hide that are just sort of like Rorschach tests, you know, they can really just find their own shapes that I didn't actually intentionally hide. And it's so sweet. I have a really good friend who's in the Celebration of Fine Art, Jerry Salinas. I had traveled to teach in 5 countries in 3 months. And I had just gotten home from Australia. It was 4 days in Kansas City before I needed to be out here to teach at the Scottsdale Artist School. And I was musing to Jerry and his wife Jay that I had been painting a lot of demonstration paintings and teaching a lot, but not giving myself enough time to stay in one place physically and make any kind of real work where I was spending any real time on it. And he said, "Why don't you come do the Celebration of Fine Art with me next season, Tina? You'll get to paint every day for 11 weeks. And something inside of me just went, like a light had gone on, because I had spoke out loud, I really need a community. I really need a place to be in my work but not be isolated in my studio." And as soon as I said it out loud, Jerry mentioned it, and the first day, last year was my first year in the show, and the first day of the show, I got 99 new best friends and an entire beautiful community of people who patron the show, and magazine editors and owners who come and visit the show. I mean, it really is like a beautiful ecosystem that I walked into, and it would be hard to leave. Once you've really experienced it, it would be very hard to not want to be here, because the energy and the community is so solid.